Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hugga With It. Today I'm here to share my top 10 of 2018. I have even put these in order from like least favorite, which obviously aren't least favorite, like they're my top 10 that I read, to most favorite. So I'm excited. Let's get into it. To read 91 books in 2018, which is a huge step up from the year before. I think that year I read 83 in 2017. And I think that's probably partly because I resolved to not read big books. So that's probably the reason. I don't know, but I read some absolutely brilliant books and I can't wait to go through them with you. So coming in at number 10 is Tangerine by Christine Mangan. This was very much marketed as a thriller, and it's much more gothic than thriller. This is a very slow-moving book about a woman who moves to Tangier with her husband in the 50s, 1956. They move there together and she really doesn't really leave her house. Like she's very, she's keeps to herself. And one day her best friend from college shows up. Now they had had a falling out at the very end of college. Like they were attached to at the hip for a very long time, and then it all went to hell. And we find out what happened as the book goes along, and we're watching our main character, I think her name was Alice, dealing with her best friend who just kind of inserts herself into her life, and that's kind of the way that she has always been. I absolutely adored this book. Again, I wish that it was marketed a little bit differently. It's not really thriller, it's more gothic mystery, but the ending was fantastic, and I didn't see that coming at all. I loved the ending, and I felt like I was there at Tangier. Like the writing was so atmospheric. You can definitely tell that she got some pointers from Daphne du Maurier, because I felt that way with Rebecca as well, the atmospheric nature of it. And yeah, Tangerine is just so good. So I highly recommend that. And coming in at number 9 is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I finally read Daphne du Maurier. I read Rebecca first, which I'm so glad I did. I also read My Cousin Rachel, which I enjoyed, but not to the same degree as Rebecca. And this was very much like Tangerine, incredibly atmospheric. I really felt like I was walking the grounds of Manderley with our main character. So our main character is a woman who meets a man on a cruise ship, and it's like a very quick romance. He asks her to marry her and she says yes, and they move to Manderley, which is this big Cornish estate. However, he lived there before with his late wife, Rebecca. And Rebecca plays an enormous part in this book. She is lurking around every corner. She is loved by all of the servants, especially one very manipulative servant. And our main character has to like walk in the shadows of Rebecca, and I loved it. There's a lot of mystery in here. I'm just so glad that I finally read this book. It was well worth the wait, but I'm glad that the wait is over. Coming in at number 8 is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This was just so heartbreaking and uplifting at the same time. We're following a girl named Eleanor who has a relatively normal life. She goes to work, she has a good job, but when she goes home on the weekends, she binge drinks. And there is a reason that she binge drinks. She has had a very hard life, but she doesn't let on. She doesn't tell anyone. And she meets two men. One of them falls in the street, and one of them is from her IT department. And they create this friendship, and it is about the importance of friends and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who will lift you up. And what I just thought was the most amazing thing about this book is watching her break open. You learn about Eleanor at the same pace as her friends do. So she's holding you back as a reader for a little while as well, until she's ready to open up. And I just thought this was brilliant writing, and I can't wait to read more Gil Honeyman because I miss Eleanor very much. Number 7 goes to one of the creepiest of the bunch on this list, and that's The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I went on and on about this over the summer with you guys. I'm sure you guys are sick of me talking about this, but this had me gripped and I could not put it down. I needed to know what happened to this family. We're following a family who rent a cabin, and suddenly these people appear outside of their door, wielding very strange weapons that they made themselves. And they're saying, "We just need your help. We're not going to hurt you. We just need your help because it's basically the end of the world." And we witness the clash between these two, this family and this group of very odd people. And I was creeped out. It's not for the faint of heart. It's very bloody. It had me a couple of times going, oh, I need a little break from that because it was bloody, but I loved it, and I love Paul Tremblay. This solidified how much I adore him. Number 6 is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. I cannot believe that Jeanette Walls had this life. This is about her childhood with two very eccentric, very self-centered parents. And it is about her realizing as the years go on that her father in particular, she was really close to her father, that her father was just a man and wasn't this hero of a person. And that he let her down. She realizes that she still loves him, and I think the parents really did still love these children, but they put them in so much harm. Jeanette Walls was in physical danger a lot, and the kids were often left to basically starve. They were eating margarine at some points to stay alive, and digging through the trash at school to find unfinished lunches. It was very heartbreaking, but also amazing to watch Jeanette Walls rise from this scenario. It was really impressive, and I really admire this woman. Number 5 is Hum If You Don't Know the Words. I was just so attached to the characters in this book. We follow 2 people in South Africa, a little white girl named Robin who loses her parents very young, and she goes to live with an aunt, and it's about her adjusting to the world without her parents. And then we also follow Beauty, who has a daughter who she loves very much, who has gone missing. She thinks, she's not sure if she's run away or if she's been kidnapped, what has happened to her daughter. And these 2 characters meet at one point in the book, and their storylines get mingled together, and I loved these characters so immensely. I just wanted only good things for them, and it's, apartheid South Africa, and so bad things are going to happen, but there's this part of you that just has this hope, like, please make it sure everyone's okay. I just adored those characters very much. I think she's coming out with another book in 2019 at some point. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that because she's a great writer. Number 4 is The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. This is my favorite ghost story now because it was so creepy. This is so much more than a ghost story. For the first 100 pages, nothing scary happens at all. But we're following a family after the war, and they had been incredibly rich, and they have this enormous mansion, this huge estate, and they can't afford it. It's crumbling around them. They have one servant at this point, and she falls ill, and so we have a doctor who goes to the house to check on the maid and make sure that she's okay. And then he starts to attend to the family because they're also not in the best shape all the time. So he starts to attend to them, and then he just starts showing up, and he becomes kind of involved in all of their lives. And this is really about the fall of the upper class, the rise of the middle class. And there's a ghost as well. And you get so engrossed in the characters and their relationships with each other and what's going on there that you forget that there is a ghost as well. And there's no escape because they are all too poor to leave this estate, and it is creepy. You forget that there's a ghost, so anytime that there is a ghosty scene, it creeped me out. It had me looking over my shoulders. I was really scared. I remember I was reading this around the time that my husband went to Boston, and I needed to read it before he left because I could not read this book in an empty house. I couldn't because it creeped me out so much. So I highly recommend that one. Number 3 is I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. This book is nonfiction by Maggie O'Farrell. I've since picked up a fiction book by her. I'm eager to read that, but this book is about her 17 brushes with death, and you'd be surprised. She really did have 17 brushes with death in one way or another. Some of these chapters were about her childhood illness. Some of them were about incredibly creepy scenarios where she was, I think, very nearly killed by a murderer, like a known murderer. And there's a chapter here about missed miscarriage and the missed miscarriage that she had. I've had a missed miscarriage last year in December, end of December, and it just was so helpful to me to see how other people, how this woman dealt with it, and the questions that I had or the questions that she had, and it made me feel less of a bad person, if I'm being honest, because some of the thoughts that you have are not very gracious, and she had the same thoughts, and it just made me feel like I was going to be okay, that I was known, and I just adored this book, and I can't wait to read more by Maggie O'Farrell now. Okay, number 2, oh my gosh, we're getting to the end here, is Memoirs of a Geisha. I read this earlier in the year, and I just felt so connected to this storyline and what would happen to our main character. We're following a little girl. Well, we follow her from a little girl into an older woman. And when we meet her, she's a little girl who's very poor. Her dad is a fisherman. He's down on his luck. His wife is dying. So our main character is sold to become a geisha. And we watch her experience and her days training to become a geisha. She meets some horrible, horrible people. She meets some wonderful people. And this is about her own resilience and relying on herself. And there is a love story in here that made me happy. Like, I was down for this love story, and I never like love stories, but in this case, I was all in. I was all in. So yeah, that's Memoirs of a Geisha. I'm so glad I finally read that. And then my favorite book of 2018. Favorite. It might not be a surprise. I don't know if this would be a surprise to people or not, but it's Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. This is a historical fiction book where we meet a woman named Ursula when she is first born in 1910. In some cases, she dies immediately upon birth. In other cases, she lives. And so it's a little bit of sci-fi, but more historical fiction than anything else. And we follow Ursula in her many lives. We follow her into even the World War II, which those scenes were so vivid. I felt like I was right there. And this book just really taught me the valuable lesson that life is very random. And I find that comforting. I don't know if everyone else would find that comforting, but I find that really comforting. And I couldn't put this book down. And it was also something where you took your time with it because the writing was so beautiful. And this is definitely something I'm going to revisit in the future because it just meant so much to me. But it'll also be a book that I'll be a little afraid to revisit because it meant so much to me. So Life After Life is my favorite book of 2018. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book of 2018 was. I would love to know. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.